state representative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Missouri has hardly had any cases of corona anyway.
Well, if you're good to go, I'll jump right into it.
Yeah, man. Let's rock it.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and today is a special guest. I have a shoot interview with WWE Hall of Famer. He's held all the major tag team titles in every company, part of the greatest tag team of all time, Road Warrior Animal. How you doing today, sir?
Devin, great to talk to you all the way from Ottawa, Canada. It's a pleasure, bro.
And you were just telling me the gyms are open up in St. Louis again. They're not quite open back up here. Have you been back in the gym now?
Yeah, man, I've been back in for 2 weeks. You know, it's hard to when you take 2 months off, right? Getting back into it, you feel like a 90-year-old because you're always sore, you know. But yeah, man, you can only do so much walking and so much aerobics, so much resistance band training. You got to have that negative resistance with the weights,
I know you saved your money very well, and the appearances you do now is more for fun, but how has this whole situation affected you? Because I guess you haven't done any bookings for a few months.
Well, I had really, quite honestly, everybody saw the dark side of the ring. I had a real messed up partner. He because of what happened, we left a lot of money on the table. Yes, I do appearances now for fun, but you're digging into your piggy bank pretty good. I mean, I had 3 months off. I lost out on what a time too during WrestleMania month. I had just gotten back from Qatar, and then I had the month before, then WrestleMania month, and the month after, which is these were 3 good months for me traveling around. I was booked every weekend, so yeah, it put a damper on the old pocketbook, but hey, I got a booking next week in Tennessee, in Jackson, Tennessee. So I'm happy about getting back down there to see the fans in Tennessee, man. It's always a pleasure to get down to that part of the country. So I can't wait. It's starting to pick up now again. Been talking to Brian Knobs from the Nasty Boys, and I guess he's got to deal with a whole bunch of casinos opening up all across Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota.
Oh, that's great.
Buddy Bob Foote. Yeah, man. A lot of Indian reservations. So it'll be fun to do all those too.
And you mentioned Dark Side of the Ring. I know there was a bunch of stuff in Dark Side of the Ring you cleared up on Facebook, but maybe for the people that didn't see your Facebook post, you could comment on it here.
Yeah, man. There was a couple things they got wrong, and you can't blame them. They were doing all these episodes, and there was so much information they had on Hawk and I. It could have been a 3-hour show easily. But then again, it's not about the accomplishments. It's about the positive and negatives of the career, right? So the part where it said, Animal said that's enough, and he went on his own to do his own thing. That wasn't exactly the way it happened. Hawk was the one that was not in the right frame of mind, and just kind of was all pilled out at the time and just walked away from the team. I loved him to death, and I'm still to this day not mad at him. He was my brother. What you want to do more than anything else is try to help the guy, right? And he just had that situation going on in the back of his mind and was addicted, and he took off and made his own deal. I was trying to be a businessman. I wanted to finish out the dates with WWE that we had to leave on good terms at least. I mean, how much good terms can you leave? One half of the tag team that's at the top of the game there quits. They got $1 million of TV time into you. It's not easy to leave, go on good terms, but I was trying to leave peacefully so we can go back there someday in the future.
And of course, you got the name Legion of Doom from Super Friends, and it wasn't He-Man, like they said, I guess, as well.
Yeah, Paul got that wrong, but, that was easy because Hawk did like He-Man because he always would sit in the car and go, He-Man, and stuff like that. He called Ellering He-Man because now Paul was like a machine. He called him La Machine He-Man, But yeah, we were actually watching getting ready to leave the hotel, the Red Roof Inn in Columbus, Ohio, and Super Friends came on TV and heard the heel on the cartoon went, meanwhile, back at the Legion of Doom. We all looked at each other and we said, that's great. We got to use that. We figured, what the heck? It's a fan-friendly entertainment back then. Wrestling didn't go to the dark side yet. So we figured, oh, well, man, we'll attract the kids by using the Super Friends tag.
And they discussed that infamous attempted suicide angle WWE did with Hawk. What was going on in your mind at the time when they were pitching that?
Well, when he fell off the Titantron,
Yeah,
when we were sitting in the office, it was Ellering and Hawk, myself, and Vince McMahon. And when he brought it up to us and said, we're going dark, I forget who else was in the room. I think maybe Bruce Pritchard said, we're going dark. And I said, okay. I'm starting to think to myself, well, how's that going to work? We sell a lot of action figures. We sell a lot of bed sheet and pillowcases for kids, underwear, lunch boxes, video games. How's that going to work going dark for us? We're a kid's gimmick. We're a young person's gimmick. I didn't know how that was going to work. So one thing led to another. And at first they wanted me to do it. And I had a kid in high school, a kid in junior high, and a kid in elementary school. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that to my kids. I'm not putting my family through that. And I want to do it. And Hawk jumped up and said, I'll do it. And, you got to understand the situation, too. Hawk had just coming back from the suspension. He wasn't going to make waves. He wanted to be peaceful about it. He goes, I'll do it, and took the pressure off of me, which I appreciate it. But to me, it was a little too close to home because Hawk was already on his, third dime being, on a suspension for substance abuse. And I thought that they were kind of trying to rub it into the face a little bit. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's why I didn't like it.
Do you think they would have eventually brought you and Hawk back if he hadn't passed away? Because of course they ended up bringing you back to team with Heidenreich and be a single star later on.
Yeah, I think they would have brought us back. I mean, we had such a unique thing as tag teams. As long as we looked halfway like the Road Warriors, we would have been just fine. I mean, look at the state of wrestling today. I mean,
Yeah.
if Hawk were alive today, we could be still the top tag team in any one of the companies because guys just don't know how to be tag teams. No one wants to sell. No one wants to tell a story. No one wants to do anything. Everybody wants to be a superstar, and that's just not the way it works. There's yet to be, and I say this modestly, Devin, there's yet to be a person that comes in the ring, whether you're a single or a tag team, that gets that infamous Road Warrior pop. Nobody gets it. And there's a reason why they don't get it, because they're not taking the time to learn the craft, to appreciate it, and let the fans decide who gets that pop. You can't force the pop. They like you or they don't like you.
One of the fans actually wanted me to ask you what your biggest Road Warrior pop was, both in WWE and in Japan.
I think anytime we did the Tokyo Dome shots, Road Warrior pop was huge. When we wrestled Tenru and Hogan was pretty loud. And then we did Wembley Stadium. That was a loud cheer. I mean, there's 90,000 people standing on top of their feet going crazy. And it was pretty nuts. Those were the two loudest pops, probably.
And they left Hawk out of the Brawl for All episode. What did you think of him entering the Brawl for All at the age he was at that time?
You know, if they would have called Hawk early in his career, I don't think there's any doubt he probably would have walked right through it because I knew Hawk really well. At that time, he's already been partying a lot, and everything else. And I don't think it was really his age mattered. It just was the Brawl for All was a no-win situation for anybody. It didn't help out anybody. Even at the end, it didn't help out Bart Gunn because Butterbean smoked him, So it didn't. When you try to get a guy that's not even an amateur boxer fighting a guy that's a pro, come on, how fair is that? Look at our business, Devin. Try to get
Yeah.
someone that's try to walk into it day one. They're not going to do it day one. It takes time to learn it and do it and do it and do it. Very few guys can make the crossover. You're one of them that did in the Ultimate Fighting game. You and Lashley and Brock, you guys are doing very well in it. Some guys can cross over. A lot of guys can't. Some guys can't let that shoot mentality go.
Do you think they dropped the ball with the way they brought Lashley back to WWE? I know you follow the product.
I think they missed the boat because Bobby was just coming off the run being a Bellator champ. Brock just came off being the UFC champ. They could have worked that angle tremendously and made one of them either a deviant heel and one of them a pure white meat babyface and had them go against each other. You probably could have got 2 or 3 WrestleManias out of that. I mean, I know we're in the age of rush, and get it in 4 weeks and do it, but you probably could have had a hell of an angle there. Bobby's got personality. They just don't let Bobby's personality come out very much. Bobby is very vanilla. he can do everything in the world. He looks like a Greek god, right? But they
Yeah.
keep him very vanilla. They don't let him do promos. They don't let him talk. Maybe he should have a guy like Heyman that does his talking for him. I mean, Brock doesn't talk, but he gets so much heat with Heyman and his actions. Maybe Lashley needs something like that. I don't know if MVP's his guy. We'll see. I know they're trying to do that aspect with MVP, but I don't know. I mean, if MVP can step back and let Bobby be the star, it'll work. But if MVP tries to be the guy too, you're going to have a clash of two guys trying to get over. You know what I mean?
Now that the concussions lawsuit is over with, we've seen they've brought back Sylvain Grenier as an agent. Could you see them bringing you back in some capacity in WWE?
If they wanted to, I'd be willing to sit down with them and talk to them. I wouldn't mind being an agent. I love the wrestling business. I love teaching the wrestling business. I think from what I see, whether it's WWE or AEW, you know, they do need help with the tag teams. They're trying, but they need help with the tag teams. Listen, the tag team wrestling, it cannot just end up being a spot fest all the time. You have such an opportunity to tell a story with tag teams, and no one takes the time to tell a story. Even if it's for 10 minutes, you can tell a story. If people should go back and Google some of the matches that we have with the Midnight Express and the Four Horsemen with Tully and Art. All we did was go in the ring and we did what they said, and those guys told a story with us. And that's what needs to happen. There needs to be two guys that step up to be the ring generals. You got to have two guys step up and say, okay, man, we're going to be the heels. We're the ring generals. Let's listen to us. All four of us will get over. And that's what needs to happen in both companies, in my opinion.
And you had a fan named Romans52. He wanted to know how you and Hawk got along with the Ultimate Warrior when you were doing those 6-man tags.
You know, Warrior was fine, man. Everybody had a lot of guys had a problem with Warrior. We didn't have any problem with Warrior. He was always good to us. We were always talking workout and everything else. He was just a loose cannon. I mean, it would fit right in with Hawk and I. I mean, he had three guys driving down the road that were loose cannons. If you notice, a lot of the 6-mans, it's the job for the guys to make the WWE singles champion shine, and he shined. He always did most of the high spots. He always did he did the comeback and he did the finish. That's just the way the matches were set up. Wasn't that Hawk and I were trying to be lazy or didn't ever want to do things, but I couldn't do my press slam because Warrior did the press slam and dropped the guy behind him. I mean, go figure. I started that about 10 years before Warrior even became the Warrior. And other things like, clotheslines. We didn't do any clotheslines within the match because Warrior is going to do them in the comeback, So, but yeah, no, I mean, I got along with Warrior. I didn't mind Warrior. He was a good guy. You got to respect the guy that looked like that. He worked out. He worked his ass off.
And getting into the business, what was the toughest thing you had to overcome to kind of get into the groove of being a good wrestler?
I think anytime anybody gets in, especially guys that, whether you're a fighter, boxer, great amateur wrestler, or like, I was probably at one time, I could have been a world-class power lifter. When you're in that genre and you're considered one of the best in that genre, is letting that ego go down and listening to the guys with the experience. That's probably the toughest thing because everybody thinks, oh, just because I go through wrestling camp, I need to be a world champion. That's not the way it works. Very seldom does it work out the way it did for Hawk and I. I mean, we were in the right place, right time. Matt Bourne had gotten arrested and they needed someone to fill in a tag team championship slot. And bam, Ole Anderson knew Ed Sharkey. If Ole Anderson didn't know Ed Sharkey, we would have never got that break. We just knew how to talk. We could talk and we could fight, like in a bar type fight. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if we stayed within our wheelhouse, I call it staying in your lane. If everybody stays in their lane and stays within their wheelhouse of what they know how to do and they do good and not step outside of it too much, you'll get over. I think the problem you find out with young guys today and tag teams, kids go to wrestling camp, they see a great move on TV that the Young Bucks may do. Well, sorry, you're not the Young Bucks. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You're not the Four Horsemen. You're not the Legion of Doom. You're not, you're not some of the great tag teams where you can go do their stuff because you try to copy it. The first thing people are going to do, no, they're trying to be just like the Road Warriors. The people are gonna rip on that. That's why Ascension never even stood a chance. It wasn't the guys couldn't do good stuff or couldn't wrestle. It was the fact that they came out with face paint. They were black and red. I mean, come
True.
on. People are gonna hammer you. I don't even have to say a word. People just hammer you yourself.
And you guys were so over in Japan. What are some of your favorite memories from over there?
Well, the best thing about Japan is, man, is that the way they treat you. The people in Japan are golden. They're golden, man. The red carpet gets drawn out every time I've ever gone over there. Even I went over there 2 years ago. It was the greatest thing. I did a lot of fan fests, a lot of fan dinners and lunches and stuff. The fans in Japan are freaking diehard. They love you fans. I talked to a buddy of mine over there, Masa. You probably see him all over the Facebook and
Oh, yeah.
online. Masa's great. And he and his buddy designed another Japanese style T-shirt for us that I'm getting ready to release. We just had our Dark Side of the Ring T-shirt come out last week with the pro wrestling tees, and then I got that breakneckgear.com that's doing our face masks now. So we're getting back in the swing of things of marketing. And that Dark Side of the Ring is giving it all another boost because like almost 300,000 people watched the episode. That's half the wrestling audience that's on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
So it did really well. It was one of the top rated shows ever. So we're going to take that and try to help them promote that network, Vice Network, and the shows, and see what we can do here.
Did you have much experience with the Yazuka over there, like buying you dinners and stuff?
Oh yeah, man. The Yakuza, they always bought us dinner. We ate dinners with a lot of the Wakahana and Takahana, the Japanese champion sumos, with who's the one guy that we helped train that was with New All Japan Pro Wrestling, Wajima. We helped train Wajima in Charlotte, and he never forgot that. And they always take you out to great dinners, and you always tell the guys that are screw ups, like Hawk said in the deal, they're missing a digit on their fingers. You screw up, they chop off a digit. You screw up another, and they chop off another digit, and they're all tattooed up, and they got digits missing. They're a real mess up.
And when you were wrestling over there, did you have any favorite manager? Because I think you had several different managers.
Ellering was the best manager. I mean, Ellering was the best manager for us. He fit in perfectly. He taught Hawk and I so much about the ins and outs and psychology of wrestling. Being another Minnesota guy, we felt like home. They put us together right away the first day. We gelled together. Like Paul said in the video there, he picked us up in his 1978, I believe it was, a black Ford van that just smelled like dog and peanut butter because he had jars of peanut butter in there. Yeah, man. Paul was the best manager for us.
And you mentioned how you were a great power lifter. What are some of the biggest lifts you've done in the gym?
I actually had some of my best lifts when I was wrestling. I was about a 645 bencher, but I never had any wraps on my wrist, or I never wore a bench shirt. I would love to wear a bench shirt and see how much I could have done. I think I could have done over 7 with a bench shirt. I think I did 765 for 5 reps with squat one time. And then I did a 750 deadlift. So I mean,
Wow.
my one first meet I did was a class 3 meet, but I master totaled it. I did like a 1900 total with the 3 lifts. But I was 19 years old. I really didn't even know what I was doing. But I was training with Scott Norton, who ended up being like a 765 bencher. You know what I mean? So when his bench went up, my bench went up. It pushed me. So it was the best thing I could have done when he was arm wrestling for that movie Over the Top. I trained him for that, and he got
Okay.
strong. He got the strongest he ever got in his life because Norton wasn't even really a lifter. I said, man, you need to get your butt in the gym and lift. You're 365 pounds. You don't even lift weights.
Did you ever, or did you eat a lot in those days to keep your strength up?
Oh, bro, I ate so much. I ate like a pig. I
Yeah.
probably ate 5 good meals a day.
Wow.
3 my main big ones, and then I had 2 decent sized meals in between. But my big ones I would have almost enough for 2 meals.
Did anyone ever try shooting on you guys in the ring over the years?
No, no. Hawk and I never had a problem with anybody trying to shoot on us. But we were really respectful guys. Yes, the TV guys it looked like we were brutal, and we were brutal to them. But Ole Anderson set them all down and told them, "Hey, listen, here's what we need for the business. These guys are going to be rough with you and throw you around. They're not going to hurt you." We stayed away from everybody's private area or the nose and mouth. So we never really hurt anybody. We never hurt anybody in a ring or broke any bones. So I mean, when we worked at the top guys, we weren't that way. We just did what we had to do for TV tapings, and then everything else was work like everything else. But we never got shot on. I mean, there was a couple times someone would go to dive for your leg or something, but I mean, we knew enough to know what was going on. When we had friends like guys like Brad Rangens, who was a world-class Greco-Roman guy, he would teach us some stuff, and we worked out at his gym all the time, helping train some of the young Japanese stars. So we would go to Brad, and then Brad would work with us, and then we had a lot of guys we knew that were great amateurs in the wrestling business.
There's a story that goes around. I mean, I interviewed Danny Spivey, and he didn't say anything about this, but I'm sure you've heard of it. I think the Undertaker's told the story that supposedly the Undertaker and Spivey got into it with you guys a bit in a match. Uh, what's your view on that story?
I don't think, I don't think we got into it. I just think, it was a great match because they were trying to fight for what they were getting at the time, the push as a heel team. And we were the top babyface team. And in order for it to make it look good, I mean, I think we talked about it before the match. I said, bro, if you hit me, lay it in. Lay it in. You're not going to hurt me across the chest or across the back. I mean, I'll take it. Lay it in, So in those kind of matches, we actually like those kind of matches better. I like those matches better that look like a shoot, like you're really fighting for, hey, who's going to be left standing in the ring. Those are great matches. I mean, I used to do some great matches with Taker, or spots with Taker at the time. Mark Callis, shit, he would take one step and he was across that 14-foot ring. He was so fast and so long, I mean, I would do a drop down leapfrog spot with him, and I said, man, you're coming off like a bullet. But it was good. It looked good. You two big, huge guys doing that kind of moving around, like, doing a spot like the Rock and Roll Express would do with the Rockers. I mean, it was pretty impressive for the time. I knew right away that Taker had a real good future in this business. You could tell back then. He just had a natural, it's like Ellering said on the Vice show, there was that it factor that Hawk and I had that he called it. Taker had that it factor. You could see it. And then when we saw him in WWF at the time, when he debuted as The Undertaker, Hawk gave him part of his interview, and he gave Paul Bearer the name Paul Bearer.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, Hawk thought of that. And he goes, they were trying to think of a name for him, and Hawk says, why don't you call him Paul Bearer? and it stuck, I think probably Hawk went outside, smoked a joint, and came back with that one. Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen any of these Undertaker documentaries WWE has put out?
Yeah, I saw a couple of them, man. It's done really well. I mean, Taker deserves it, man. He stayed with that company and carried that company for about 10 years when that company was in the toilet. And Taker was the guy. He kept it afloat to where it is now, you know what I mean? And I think WWE's doing it right. I think he'll probably have one good last match in him, and then he's going to call it quits. I mean, he's banged up. He's definitely sacrificed his life and his body for the wrestling business. That's for sure. And he is the phenom. He's the one and only phenom in our wrestling business.
Were you around in Japan when Hawk had that altercation with Macho Man?
Yeah, I was right there.
What happened?
You had a picture. Then let me try to paint the picture for you. WCW we were already on tour for a week, and then WCW was coming over. We were wrestling for WCW, but we didn't have the contract where WCW owned our Japanese rights. So we were hired by the Japanese to come over, and we were considered Japanese talent. So when WCW came in, we were happy to see the American boys, but right away, Ricky Choshu comes in and says, Animal-san, Hawk-san, you Japanese talent, come over here. Took us in the Japanese locker room. Now, no gaijin ever dressed with the Japanese guys. So when Choshu called us over, you could just hear the rumblings of the American boys in the locker room. Then there was a situation that happened like 2 years before that, I guess, when Hawk was dating his wife, Dale. They were just going out at the time. Hawk got up to use the restroom, and Randy Savage had said something like, Hey, why don't you let me? They're at a Japanese restaurant. Why don't you let me crawl underneath that table and show you what the real man can do? But nobody and Dale never told Hawk that, and because she didn't want any cause any trouble, and Hawk didn't know for 2 years, but finally his wife told him after they got married. She told him. So I know it was eating up Hawk, and Hawk told me when he was over there, he goes, "That freaking savage just comes over. I'm going to talk to him." So they started talking. You got to picture this: there's stairs going down. Hawk standing like right here on one side of the stairs, and Savage is on right by the stairs going down, and Hawk standing leaning against the railing. And Flair's already in the ring. Flair's the world champ. Savage is a challenger, so Savage was going to go second because he was going to give her a different pop than Flair, right? Flair was a heel, he was a babyface, go second. So all I hear, and I'm standing right next to Hawk, I hear Hawk saying, "So you call my old lady a liar?" And then Savage goes, "Yeah, I'm calling the douchebag a liar." And before he could finish his sentence, Hawk open hand Savage, knocks Savage flat on his back. His glasses flew off his head. The cowboy hat went flying. Tassels got all messed up on his arms. And then Savage, had to pop up and look aggressive in front of all the boys. Otherwise, he would look like a turd. And Hawk goes, Hawk goes, "Yeah, I knew you had a chin like a girl." You know what I mean? So Savage was going to try to be a tough guy, and then Fujinami waist locked Savage and said no. Saito just said to Hawk, "Hawk-san," put his hand up. The Hawk stopped. He said, "Okay, Masa." Hawk said to Savage, he goes, "I'll be waiting for you outside after this match. We'll see if you got the balls to come out." Hawk stood in the ring for 20 minutes after that match. Savage never came back there and went outside. Hawk came back in front of everybody and said, "See, I knew you were a pussy. You didn't come outside, you freaking pussy." And that's what he said to him. That's what started that whole thing with Savage. And then Savage jumped him one time at a concert, I believe. And when the Hawk was taking a piss in the stall and jumped from behind, they got into a little, tassel until the security guys came in and broke it up.
So did that affect your standing in WCW after?
No, not really. I mean, maybe a little bit. I mean, we were on the verge of, getting a decent contract, but we wanted. There was a lot of business stuff going on. We really wanted to make them pay for the Japanese rights because we knew we were golden to them in Japan.
Right.
You know, and if you really wanted to keep us positive, and we couldn't work out the amount of days and then give up the Japanese rights. What was that worth? And and to be honest with you, we didn't like the price at the time, so we just said, okay, we'll keep it the way it is.
And the other fight Hawk is known for is the one over in Korea against Scorpio that I think was broken up because it happened on a bus or something. Were you with WCW at that time?
I wasn't. Well, we weren't with them really. I mean, Hawk went on the trip over there. He flew in. I guess it was pretty cool. Hawk flew in first class and talked to Muhammad Ali the whole trip because
Wow.
Muhammad Ali was the ambassador, for the U.S. to North Korea. Um, I heard a little bit about it. I don't really even know much about the fight. That's how hush hush everybody kept it until years later when it came out, and I don't even know. I mean, I heard that they each slapped each other and then it was over.
Yeah, there was some pull apart on the bus, from what I understand.
Yeah,
They didn't want to cause trouble over there.
yeah, no, bro, they would have never made it back if it would have really got out. You know what I mean? Because they were fingering through the food and they were tapping every phone call, I guess. And Norton said it was horrible.
And what about Norton? You've been friends with him a long time. Do you have any stories about him?
You know, there is one of the most deceivingly fast, big guys that I've ever met. I mean, seriously, he was 370 pounds at one time and he ran under a 5 flat 40. Tried out for the Green Bay Packers and made it to the last cut and got cut. Never even played organized tackle football, really. He and Hawk played on a rough touch team together called Halleck's. It was Halleck's Bar. But Norton was a natural athlete, man. It was like a lot like Hawk in high school. They just got in so many fights that get kicked off of every organized team they ever played on.
Okay.
Because Norton was from one side of the tracks and Hawk was on the other side of the tracks. And finally, when they were younger, they like junior high and high school, they started becoming close friends. Then they stopped fighting everybody else and they start fighting people together.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but Norton, I remember one time Norton was riding his bike and some guy cut him off and something happened and the guy came running at Norton with a tire iron and Norton just put his forearm up like this to block it. And the guy swung that tire iron, hit it here, and it swelled up like a freaking baseball off of a tire iron. But Norton ended up grabbing the guy and beating the dog shit out and left him laying in the middle of the street. It was, yeah, Norton was he was a strong guy, man. I'll never forget the first time that he was going to try 600 pounds on the bench. You know, you got to understand, he only worked out for about 8 months and went
Right.
from like 405 to 600 pounds. He was that strong, you know, and he ended up doing it for 2. He doubled it the first time he tried it.
Is it true you had a USFL tryout before you went into wrestling?
Well, I had it set up to do a trial with the New Jersey Generals.
Okay.
Right, I had a friend of mine that was working on getting me a tryout, New Jersey Generals, and then Ed Sharkey came in and was in the bartending. He said, "Oh, I'm going to do a wrestling camp." I said, "Well, this trial's not for 3 or 4 months. You know, if I get it anyway, you know, because the league was so new at the time, I said, I'm going to just do this wrestling deal here for my win. It'll help me for football." Because I was always a big believer that cross training in sports helps you for your best sport. Right. And I loved football, you know, as you could tell, my son James and stuff. It's just in our family, it's in our blood. And I respect the game so much. So I was going to try to do that. I figured, well, you know, I had to out of junior college going into Morehead State. I was getting timed by Dallas and Green Bay. I figured, well, you know, I got my girlfriend pregnant, so I had to quit. And so I said, well, you know, I'm still not that old. I was only 20 years old. I said, I'm going to give it a shot, you know. And so I was going to do it, but then wrestling just happened to come up like a month before. So I had to gamble. Do I try football? I got this guy that wants to bring me down to put me on TV in Atlanta. TBS was the only wrestling that I knew. I didn't even know USA Network even had wrestling. I just knew it was on Superstation, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, I'll do it.
And that was Ole bringing you over.
Yeah, that was Ole Anderson bringing me down as a road warrior myself.
What do you think of Ole? Obviously, I think you had a good experience with him, but some people didn't.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people can't stand Ole. I mean, Ole's a dick. He'll tell you he's a dick. I mean, he's just an asshole. That's just Ole's personality. We loved Ole, though. I mean, Ole was like, you know, from being up in Canada, man, you get some of those guys that are from the northern part of the state or just hard-nosed, gritty guys that they don't screw around. They say something once, they don't want to say it again. That's Ole. That's Ole. And I always liked Ole and respected Ole, man. I can't. How do you not like a guy that changed your life forever? You know.
And everyone remembers the bench press challenge with the powers of pain. If you guys were doing that legit, how heavy could you have gone at the time? And could you have actually beat those guys at that time? They were pretty huge.
I think I could have done. It would have been between probably Warlord and me for the big. I think at that time because I never even. Man, I did like 6 1/4 in the gym at one time at that point. I believe I could have probably, with the crowd behind you, probably a 640, 650 maybe. You know,
Wow.
I don't know if Terry could have got that at that time because, you know, his arms are so much longer than mine, you know, which is still a great bench press for how tall he is, you know. But, and Barb was strong too, man. But those guys were such good guys. I mean, people don't realize, I had actually blew out my orbital rim the night before or 2 nights before in Hammond, Indiana. Warlord gave me a smaller slam, landed on my head, and blew up my eye, popped out, and went back in too far. And I had a skull fracture, broken nose, and broken cheek. And I did the bench press the next day or 2 days later. My
Wow.
face was pounding. It was hurting, man. You know, from lifting. You lay down, all the blood rushes to your head, right? And then you're pushing. Your face turns like the color of a tomato anyway.
Yeah.
And my eye was completely shut, but I trusted Warlord and Barb enough that when they ratted my head into the plates, it looked real. And when Barb gave me that high boot, it looked like he took my head off, and the brother didn't even touch me. That's how much I trust him. Because I had to put my face like this on the side that was smashed for him to kick me. But Barb was just beautiful with that boot, man. And then those two beat the crap out of Ellering and Hawk and left me laying there. I mean, it was a great angle. It just wasn't carried any further than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't keep any steam on them, which they could have done. They didn't do anything to come back on them. We came back and we just beat them around the horn and they were done. And then that's when they were going to come in and do the scaffold matches, the blow off. And they came to me and they said, "Hey, Joe, we don't feel comfortable with that." I said, "Don't do it." I said, "You got an opportunity to go somewhere else?" He goes, "Well, yeah, New York called. They want us to come up there." I said, "Go." I said, I wouldn't tell you to stay here. I said, "Tell you what, we're probably going to do 50 scaffold matches and I'm not falling off that damn thing. And you two guys are too big. You'll blow out your knees, your hips, or blow out the ring."
Yeah.
I mean, they were huge. You figure that's almost 700 pounds a guy falling.
Yeah. And I think Jim Cornette ended up getting hurt in that in the end when he got smaller.
That was the funniest thing, man. When you got a picture, you know, Big Bubba Rogers, Boss Man, and Hawk, it was no secret they loved to get high and smoke a joint before wrestling. Here, Boss Man was stoned out of his mind. He's got sunglasses on. Both things screws up your peripheral vision, right?
Right.
And your depth perception. And here's Cornette 30 feet above the ring. And when they said to me, Dusty said, "Well, Bubba's going to catch Cornette." I said to myself right away, I told Ellering, I said, "He's never going to catch him. That's going to be like 230 pounds of crap falling from 30 feet. There's no way. Picture it as a bag of cement falling. There's no way he's going to catch it. No way." I said, "Hell, I couldn't even catch a guy that's 230 pounds coming from that."
Yeah.
So here's Big Bubba standing on this, and I said, "You ready?" And Jimmy's hanging there, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm ready." And I looked, and Bubba was 4 feet away from where Jimmy landed. And Jimmy bounced about 10 feet up in the air when he hit. Man, I never laughed so hard in my life. He hit one time, and he was screaming on the second bounce, "My knees, my knees!" Oh, brother, it was so funny. I don't mean to laugh at it. Hey, did you see Cornette's post this week on that Stampede match with AEW?
I did not. I've heard about it. Did you?
Oh, he blasted those guys. Said it was the dumbest thing he's seen in wrestling since Vince Russo was doing shit with WWE.
Did you see that match? I haven't seen it.
No, I saw bits and pieces on the AEW show last night, man. I'm really mixed. I really mixed feelings about the AEW product. They start to get a guy over like Brody Lee, who then they beat right away with Cody. So now what's he mean? You know,
Yeah.
or Moxley rather. Or Moxley beats him right away. It really wasn't an angle per se angle.
Cody beat the other big guy, so
Yeah,
it's the
Cody
same
beat the
deal.
other guy. Cody beat Jake's guy, right? Looks good, can do some incredible stuff. He's got that long braided mohawk. I thought for sure they're going to push him to be the top heel, to lay some guys out, lay some people out, but they're getting into the mode of rush, 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 rush. Let's give a guy a couple cheap wins and let one of the other top guys beat him. That's what they're doing. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm a fear they're getting into that mistake. And now they're getting into Arn Anderson comes out with Cody. Taz now is coming out with somebody else. Jake's coming out with the guy, that other guy. I mean, there's too many. Now you have a bunch of guys coming out with other guys. What does that mean? You know what I mean? I mean, you had Brandy Rhodes coming out with Goldust and Cody.
Right.
I mean, there's every match has got a manager out there now. Everyone, pretty much.
And Brandy is a heel too, isn't she? And yet
Well,
Cody and
she kind of turned babyface now again, but
okay.
you know what I mean. Then they had a girls' match the other day with Sheeta and Nyla Rose and that Statlander girl that's supposed to be an alien, right? And it really, to be honest with you, man, I thought it set girls wrestling back freaking 20 years. It wasn't his last weekend on the pay-per-view because I didn't see that one, but it was the match before TV to set it up. It's just too much turning around, waiting for the girl to do the move
Yeah.
and facing her when you're doing a move. And if it's supposed to be a shoot-looking thing, you should be facing your opponent. It's like someone going to punch you, and you go like this. and they all should know better than that. They're better product than that. Or if you're not, you should be getting your butt in the ring and practicing it before the show starts.
And I don't know if you saw this picture, but they tweeted out a picture after the pay-per-view of Jake, his guy, Arn, and Cody, Mike Tyson in the middle with Tony Khan, and they're all smiling around the belt,
Oh
like
yeah,
just
see
like
that
they're
that's
all
so
friends.
that's just like so stupid. I don't know. Even though the wrestling business is entertainment, how are you going to get anybody to buy the next ticket to the pay per view? Because this was a buy the pay per view. It's not free on TV, right?
Right,
How are you going to get them to buy it next time when you're sitting around and you're all friends? And then they had on TV. I don't know if you saw last night's show. They had last night's show with Chris Jericho saying to Mike Tyson, "When you knocked me out in 2013, well, that was on WWE's program."
right.
So all the clips today on Facebook was Tyson hitting Jericho back in WWE, and Jericho wants to get revenge now. They did a big pull apart last night on TV, and I'm thinking to myself, what? And Chris Jericho, don't get me wrong, I love Chris Jericho. I think he's the top guy there. I think he's
Right.
the top guy there. He's the top interview there. He's the top play-by-play guy. He's the man. He's got the only guy that's got heat. He keeps his heat. And he keeps going on. Right? He's like the Energizer Rabbit. I think he's just smart enough that they should listen to him and let him do his own thing on getting the other opponent over and getting himself over. You don't need to have. You can start getting too many chiefs, which I don't know if that's the case. What's happening there, but you're getting a lot of stuff. Then they showed a picture of Tony Khan's Memorial Day party, and there was Adam Cole
Oh,
standing right
really?
standing right next to the guys. Because his wife works for the company, so
Okay.
he was at Tony Khan's house. I mean,
That
it,
might get him some heat.
yeah, it's like Big Vito was saying. Oh yeah, well he'll be jobbing his butt out now, and he'll be on his way. He'll be the next one to go.
I heard his contract ends in July, so it may have something to do with that. But he's hard to take seriously as the NXT champion because he doesn't really look tough at all. But not many of them do these days.
No, man. The only guy you take serious there is the big black dude. What's his name?
Kevin something maybe.
No, the guy that fought that guy ended up with Lesnar in the battle royal, or the Royal Rumble. Um, the big guy. He can really move pretty good. He's huge. He's about 360 pounds.
Okay, I think
Uh,
I've seen him, but
yeah, he can move. He looks good. He looks like a big wrestler. They can do things, but everybody else is just. I hate to say it. It's just a small, ripped guy.
well, I think they've lost in the ratings now 28 times, including last night they lost again. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, but you
what
know what?
this,
Here you guys look at this, Devin. Though they're only getting 700 and something thousand people to watch.
yeah,
I mean, granted it's COVID and everything else, but if the product was really good, they would be in the 2 million, 3 million mark. I mean, you realize when WCW and WWF were hot at the time, we were in 18 to 20 million homes
yeah.
on a Monday night. We had the Monday Night Wars going. Where did the fans go? Wrestling has got to do something to get the fans back. You know what I mean? And when now the WWE just let go a lot of guys, I'm wondering what kind of guys they're going to bring back. I mean, I just saw they brought back Gulak. They brought him back, but I wonder who else they're going to bring back.
Did you hear that Velasquez's contract was for 5 million a year? They ultimately released him, but that's a pretty big contract.
Who?
Cain Velasquez supposedly his
Oh
contract was for 5 million.
yeah, he got let go of some due to some doing something on social media or something. That was the reason.
Ah,
That's the reason.
okay,
Yeah. There was something to do with social media and the fact that I don't think he was on the up and up about his knee, as bad the injury as it was, too. And that had another thing to do with it. And then they
yeah.
found out, now his knee. I guess his knee's really shot. But then again, what's he gonna do? I mean, Lesnar smoked him over in Saudi Arabia, so that didn't work out well.
Do you think it hurts you at all that your brother still works in the office there? Because it seems like he's doing you a favor if he recommends you.
Well, it's a hard spot for him. You know what I mean? But after all this time, and listen, there's four major Hall of Fames in wrestling, right? Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, NWA Hall of Fame, WWE Hall of Fame, and the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. There's only five guys in all four, and Hawk and I are two of the guys.
Yeah.
I should be able to get in anywhere to work with my own laurels. And the fact that I never burned any bridges, I was always a businessman. I was always easy to get along with, and I was good to people because I want to be people good to me back, right? So there really isn't any legitimate reason why I shouldn't be with either company, to be
No.
honest with you. So, but hey, you never know what the future holds, man. Sometimes everything always comes back around and things will change.
How did he end up marrying the Bella's mother of all people?
I don't know, man. I don't know how they met. I know that there were some issues with John's ex-wife, and I remember one time my son James was doing an appearance somewhere. I think it was Arizona somewhere, and he had told me he seen my brother there. He goes, yeah, but he was sitting there talking to somebody and having lunch with somebody, but it wasn't Aunt Jill, and I think that was her. She's a very nice lady. I mean, I don't know her very well because I don't see John that well much. He's there in Arizona. They live in Arizona. But I know that he treated the Bellas very good, you know, and that's another probably good reason. But yeah, man, they're happy now. They're grandparents now, so that's all good. He's the happiest he's been in his life, so that's all. I'm happy for him.
And what about your other brother? I think his name was Mike, that he wrestled for a while.
Mark, yeah, Mark was
Mark,
part.
yeah.
Mark was part of the Terminators, Rage and Fury. They were WCW champs. They did a lot of wrestling for Otto Wanz over in Germany and South Africa and stuff. Yeah, he works for a sports marketing company out of Wisconsin now. He was a computer graphics director for a vitamin company out of Miami in Fort Lauderdale. But yeah, now he switched jobs. Yeah, he's doing well, man. He looks more like me than my brother John does.
Okay. There's a fan that wanted me to ask you how your experiences working with Tony Atlas was over the years.
I always got along good with Tony. Hawk and Tony had a couple shoving matches at one time, with the no selling gimmick that Tony was doing. But, I mean, Hawk forgot that Tony was Mr. USA at one time, too. He was one of the first black tag team champions in WWF. I always got to look over Tony. I like Tony. Tony still looks great to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be 68, 70 years old. He looks great to this day, man. He looks phenomenal.
And how did you like working with Jerry Blackwell?
Jerry Blackwell was a phenom. Another phenom, a guy that was 450 pounds that could throw a drop kick in your face. Yeah, Jerry was stud.
There's a fan that wanted to know what is your thoughts on the release of Paul Ellering's daughter, Rachel?
I heard that she got a really nasty knee operation. She blew her knee out. I think it was a patella tendon, and Paul's had patella tendon problems. Some of the girls who have been world-class powerlifters, and Rachel, his daughter, was a world-class powerlifter. She competed in South Africa and everywhere else. I think it was just a lot of stress on the knees, man. And great girl, good personality, can wrestle her butt off. I always said she and Tessa Blanchard would be the best girls tag team in the history of wrestling ever.
Well, maybe that could still happen. They're still young enough. You never know.
Oh, yeah, man. They're both in their 20s. It's easily could happen.
And for Nikita Koloff, you brought him into the business. I think you also brought the Warlord into the business. Any memories of Nikita?
Well, yeah, I remember with Jim Crockett when Hawk and I were working our angles with the Midnight Express and doing stuff with the Horsemen. Crockett came up to me one time and said, "Is there any more big guys like you guys back in Minnesota that want to get into wrestling?" I said, "Well, come think of it, there's one more guy." He was willing to shave his head and be a Russian. I said, "I'm pretty sure he'll do anything, man. He's had 2 broken legs because of football, and right now he's looking for a job." And that's what I gave Nikita my car, and I said, "Man, get your butt down here." And he came down, and next thing you know, he was Russian Nightmare.
And you ended up hurting your back in WWE in 1992. Do you think if you had not hurt your back, possibly you would have been teamed up with Crush at that time and had a run as a tag team?
You know, there's a lot of things in the wrestling business. I did hurt my back, and medically, I was messed up, but I still could have kept going on. But because Hawk screwed off, I basically said after that, well, screw this. I'm going to go take some time off, recuperate, work out, collect on disability because I had a great disability, deal going on. And if I probably wouldn't have done that, they probably would have stuck me with Crush, even though it would have been pretty hard to have one Demolition and one Road Warrior together. You know what I mean? But people would have bought it anyway. You know what I mean? But it worked out for the best, man. I was getting called by Hawk all along. Anyway, people didn't know about it. The Japanese were always asking me, when can Animal come back? When can Animal come back? And that happened almost since day one after he left.
Now, for the infamous story where Hawk gave the Doomsday Device to Vince in the bar, is that folklore? Or did that actually happen?
Oh, that happened for real. Yeah, we were in a place called the Yellow Rose. I think it was in San Antonio, Texas. It was a strip joint. And at the time, that was right after all the steroid nonsense that was going on, and Vince was out drinking with the guys and buying everybody rounds. And so I look over at Hogan, and Hogan gives me the thumbs up. I said, okay. And I said, Hawk, Doomsday. And he goes, okay. You know, so Hawk jumps up on stage. I go behind Vince and get him up. And Vince goes, whoa, and turn around. And as soon as I turn around, here comes Hawk running off the stage. And I see him push the stripper aside, says, excuse me, and clotheslines Vince off the shoulder. Yeah, and
Wow.
Hogan caught him, man, from behind. But still, I mean, who else can give a billionaire the finish in the bar? You know?
Hawk put out, I guess, a shoot interview shortly before he died. He was saying, I guess, Vince was a demon or something. Was he over the feud with Vince by the time he actually passed?
I think at the time that Hawk did that shoot interview, I mean, I don't know if Vince was so much the demon or wasn't a lot of stuff was well deserved. You know what I mean? You got to look at it this way: when you own a company and you're putting millions of dollars into advertisement on guys and TV time and all this other stuff, toys, action figures, wrestling buddies, all this stuff, and the guy just says, "Screw you, I want to get high." Oh, really? When there's a million guys wanting to jump in those shoes immediately, and you're disrespecting it, it probably was a little bit of both ways. Was Vince an angel? No. Was Hawk an angel? No. You know what I mean? I think it was a little bit guilty on both parties. Which then ultimately it's a guy who has the pen in his hand that ultimately is the decision maker. You know what I mean? So he signs the check. So you got to go along with the boss. I'm going to try to tell Hawk a bunch of times. Is Mike, if you're working for Honeywell, you're working for 3M or a vacuum company or whatever, you got to do what the boss says. I mean, that's why you got a boss.
Yeah.
Unless you're the boss and you own it, then you do what you want. But otherwise you got to listen to the boss. They have rules and regulations. You just can't make up your own rules. It's a company. It's a business. Now you had shareholders. You really had to do it. And Hawk just couldn't get with that program.
You mentioned that when Hawk went off after SummerSlam 92, he went off with the Berserker. Do you still keep in contact with John Nord at all? Because I understand he's had a lot of problems in recent years.
Yeah, man. Nord has been in one treatment facility after another. And he's not doing real well. I heard he was doing okay as of late. Who was it? Barry Darsow told me he saw Nord, but I've not seen John Nord since he worked for WWF.
Okay.
It's been that many years, man. I've not seen Nord probably for at least 20 years, maybe 15, 20 years. Yeah, it's been that long, man. He went through a real downward slide. He got divorced. The son Joe was a great athlete. That got all screwed up over all this stuff that was going on in his life, man. And so his son Joe was a great wrestler for the University of Minnesota.
How
Illinois.
did you like working for Vern Gagne?
Vern was all right. Vern was just very old school. You know, Ellering's the one that got us all used to working with these promoters. I mean, we would go all over the country from Don Owens in Portland and Joe Blanchard in San Antonio to the Rougeaus up in Montreal to Carlos Colon in Puerto Rico, you know, and to Giant Baba to Inoki to everywhere to Vern Gagne, and then to Jim Crockett Promotions and Ole, you know, and Harley Race in St. Louis. I mean, we went everywhere and got so used to promoters at the time. To be honest with you, Ellering's the one that dealt with them. We never had to deal with anybody. He'd go in there, he'd set up the dates, he'd buy the tickets, and he'd get our payouts and say, here's the tickets cost, here's your pay for the night, and here's my pay, and let's go. All right. But we just did that.
Did you party at all with Ric Flair back in the NWA days?
Oh, yeah, I had one or two kamikazes with Flair. There's many times Flair would come in there and say, bartender, give me 30 kamikazes, 15 for me and 15 for my buddy Animal here. I knew better. I always ate a big meal, like a big steak and potatoes before I went out. That I knew he was going to try to get you messed up.
What do you think of his claim that he had sex with 10,000 women over his years?
That's probably a little stretched, you know, but there was probably, I mean, I don't know, man. I would imagine there was a few. I mean, he was a world champ for a long time, you know what I mean? And back when wrestling was very, very, very fan friendly and popular, a lot different today.
Yeah, I guess the groupie scene back in those days. I know you were married most of the time, but I'm sure Hawk probably partook in some of it. Back in those days, it was a lot more prevalent.
There's a lot. I mean, there are no groupies today because a lot of the girls that love wrestling became wrestlers now, and they're married to the guys. You know what I mean? Not that they're groupies, but back then, very few women wrestled.
Now, do you have any?
They love the wrestling business. They love the entertainment aspect of it. Hawk was more of a partier. He really couldn't care less about the girls.
Okay, he just wanted to get in there and do his stuff.
Do my stuff. Go get me a double vodka on the rocks and go get high and take some somas and relax. That's all he lived for. He lived for that kind of stuff. He really would get. I mean, there was times I remember getting off the plane in Kuwait. We're guests of the country there for WWF. And there's only one person on the plane whose toes were getting dragged across the tarmac, and that was my partner's. Everybody else was fine. My partner was totally gone.
Okay.
Yeah. Kuwaitis didn't know what to think.
Was he really a biker, or did he just like hang with the bikers?
That was just our gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we had Harleys, we rode Harleys, but I mean, Hawk left his Harley at my house for 5 years. He bought a brand new Fat Boy and left it at my house.
At one point, I think he dated Missy Hyatt, didn't
he? Yeah, he did.
Any thoughts on her?
No, Missy's a great girl, man. He left her in Minnesota and moved to Florida. I think he left her in his condo and then moved to Florida himself. And she called me upset. I said, well, you need to call Mike. And then he wouldn't return her calls. And she ended up moving back out down to Georgia. But he left his Harley. He told me, he goes, Animal, can I leave my bike at your house? I said, for how long? He goes, I don't know. Ended up being 5 years. Wow. So I rode it. Every time I got spring and summer came around, I rode it to Henning's house and go BS with Henning. You know, he lived on the Mississippi River in Anoka, Minnesota. You know, Anoka is known as the Halloween capital of the U.S. And I'd go over visit Henning, come back.
Any funny rib stories from Henning?
The one that sticks out, there's two that stick out to my mind. One that where he stopped by a pet store one time because we were good. The Beverly Brothers also grew up in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
And he bought like 50 fetal mice and stuck them in the Beverly Brothers shoes in their pockets of their jeans. So after they came out of the ring and got to take a shower and got dressed, they went to put their shoes on, and there's mice in there, and then their pockets, their hands in their pockets, and they're all full of mice, baby mice. Couldn't even see; they were so young.
Wow.
And then one time Virgil kept screwing around with everybody, and Virgil came out of the ring, and it was the middle of winter, and one pant leg of Virgil's jeans was cut off, so one pant leg was short, one pant leg was long. Yeah, that was heavy.
For the Canadian Stampede, you guys had huge heat that day in Calgary. Any memories of that match?
No, man, that was just freaking awesome, though, to be there. And Hawk and I were Mad Hatters in the Calgary Stampede. They gave us some Stetsons to wear. And it was just a great experience, to be up in Canada wrestling a historic team like the Hart Foundation, right? And to be 4 Americans and to have the reaction that we had in Canada was crazy, man. We were stone cold heels, so it was easy for us to work. But Owen and Brett especially were just so over. I mean, it was ridiculous. Owen could have ran for president, to be honest with you.
Were you working that night when Owen passed away?
No, I wasn't, man. I was just actually home. One of the few pay-per-views I wasn't on. I was home, and my son James was watching the pay-per-view, and came running in. He says, "Daddy, Owen Hart just fell from the ceiling." And I went in there. I said, "What?" And I thought it was a work, Then they cut, and they weren't on air for a bit. And I said, "Oh my gosh, serious." I took my son James up to the funeral up in Calgary.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're in one of the newspapers clippings from then.
Yeah, and I knew the Hart story well, and I really respected Brett and Stu and the family, and always heard all those horror stories. I remember when I first met Stu, he grabbed a hold of my arm and had those vice grip hands on my arm, and I said, "Hey," "get your hands off of me. I already know your reputation precedes you. You always want to come to the guy with the big arms and see if you can make him scream." I said, "I'm not screaming, so just forget it."
How did you? Oh, sorry. How did you get along with Steve Austin?
I got along good with Steve. I mean, I think Steve intimidated a lot of guys because he was the top dog, at the time. Steve was the man. But, I think Hawk and I were comfortable in our own skin because we were the top team. I mean, we were the only tag team in the country in the business that was working main events to close out the show ever. They never put tag teams on last because they couldn't carry the ball. And they were doing that with us. When Hogan wasn't working or Warrior wasn't working, we were the main event.
There's a fan that was wondering if you could explain the tattoos on your arms, what they each mean.
Well, the ones that are my face paint and Hawk's face paint, that's pretty much self-explanatory. When Hawk died, I put his face paint up there and put RIP and the date and everything else, And then the other ones are crosses on my arm. I have the one that says faith, and then you put it the other way, it says hope. And then there's a tattoo of Jesus on the forearm here, and then I got the cross right here. This was basically a cover up. Since I covered it up, I put a nice big cross on there. I am going to get my grandkids' arms tattooed on there one of these days on my inside of my forearm.
Any chance that your son is going to get into wrestling? Everyone's always asking.
They're always asking that, man. No, James is content. He did very well with his money. His second contract was freaking enormous. So I told him, if you put that money away and live off your pension now, you don't need any money. You live off that pension. His pension's freaking through the roof. If you could live off that pension, you got a problem. It's huge. So I told him to do that. So that's what he's doing. He's remodeling. He bought like 90 acres outside of Columbus, Ohio, and Dublin, Ohio, and he's got a nice spread out there. And I think he's going to build a neighborhood. He said with a builder.
Do you think the XFL is going to open up again with a different owner? Someone might buy it in bankruptcy
Yeah,
court.
I think someone's going to buy it. Someone else. I think once it's something that has the same owner dies twice, even though this had nothing to do with Vince, it had to do with COVID. But I think someone else will buy it and maybe try to turn it into something. those pre-leagues did decent. The other league that was playing 8 NFL games, that was doing okay. They just stopped doing it for some reason. The XFL games, I know here in St. Louis, they were getting a great attendance. The Battlehawks were playing great football. As a matter of fact, one of the teams picked up the Battlehawks quarterback. I think Kansas City did. As a backup. He's not going to play, but he's a backup to the Kansas City quarterback. So, I mean, at least he made it in the league. I think if you're an immature guy and you need that extra maturity to go on to the next level, and you need a couple years to hone your abilities, then I think it's a good place to go.
Have you seen the clip online of the, I think it's the Fabulous Ones saying that they had to like physically fight you guys in the ring once? Might be
Well,
another case where you just made them work.
yeah, I don't think they would have had to fight us in the ring, because if that would ever happen, they would still be in the ring,
Yeah.
laying there. you know, I know Stan Lane and Steve Kern very well. I mean, there was one time I think they're talking about in the St. Paul Civic Center where they gave us a stupid finish. It wasn't the Fabulous Ones finish. It was a finish that Greg Gagne gave us. Ellering looks at us and said, that finish is not good for you guys. And we said, what do we do? Because nobody ever disputed Vern Gagne's finishes before, right? And Paul goes, I know Steve Kern very well. He goes, he's got a short fuse. Hawk, you grab Kern, you slam him like 3 times, they'll come in with a chair and they'll double DQ it. So
Okay.
Hawk, we get in the ring, and Hawk says to the guys, hey, we're going to change the finish so no one gets hurt. Which means that so no one looks like pussies, basically. Well, they thought that Hawk said, we're changing the finish, listen to us, or we're going to hurt you. That's not what we said. I was right there. Hawk says, so no one gets hurt. So Hawk grabs Kern, slam, 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 like clockwork. Kern went out and said, screw this, come in with a chair, and bam, 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 DQ.
Okay.
It just we didn't mind dropping the belts. It just wasn't the right finish for us to drop the belts. It made us look stupid.
Right. Do you still keep in contact at all with Heidenreich or Draws?
No, man, I've not seen Draws. Well, Draws can't get around very much. He's out in Jersey and he's in that wheelchair, man. It's a heavy duty wheelchair. I don't see Draws. And Heidenreich, I've not seen him since I saw him at 1 or 2 appearances where he just literally lost his freaking marbles and flipped out at a Comic-Con one year. So I've not seen him. Probably not seen him in 4 years.
Yeah, the last time I saw him, his face was all bruised up for some reason, and he didn't look very good.
Poor John. He's such a good-hearted guy too, man. But he just has issues. He's always had issues.
There's a fan that wanted to know if George Steele ever gave you any trouble because he was also known as the Animal.
No, different type of animal.
Now, I've seen the Memphis wrestling music video you guys did. I actually like the song. But what any memories of wrestling in the Mid-South Coliseum?
Yeah, we were Jimmy Hart one time, and he had actually wrote that melody for Terry Funk.
Okay.
And then he says, "Hey, listen, I wrote this song for Terry Funk. He's not going to use it. You guys should use it." And we were so off on what we were saying. We had to try to match the words that were dubbed in, and it was just absolutely horrendous. And so I remember doing that, and then there's gonna be a rumble tonight. For the Warriors. That's right. It was crazy, man.
It was actually, I think, included in that AWA VHS that they put out of you guys. They showed a riot in that VHS. I remember. I think it was from Indiana. Was that the worst riot you guys were ever in?
Yeah, Hammond Civic Center. It was in Hammond again. It was we left Baron von Raschke and Kurt Hennig. We had Kurt tied in the ropes. He was all bleeding. We laid out Larry. We were leaving the ring, and some fans threw chairs from the upper balcony and hit Hawk, and we just turned around and started swinging. And we started saying we probably hit about 10 people, but you can tell it was big old farm country. You know what I mean?
Did you ever work with the Freebirds?
Yeah, bunch of times.
How did you like them?
Good, man. We worked one time in Comiskey Park in between the White Sox game. We were in between the doubleheader. They rolled a ring out there and we wrestled them. And then we did a couple 6-mans they were with the Crusher. They painted the Southern flag on Crusher's face with them, And we always had great matches with Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes. I mean, wrestled with Terry Gordy a lot in Japan. Yeah, they were good. They were good guys, man. Good heels, very good heels.
And for Jesse Ventura, I know that you kind of talked to him when you were first getting into the business, but do you have any memories with him you could share with us?
You know, Jesse and I, our paths crossed. I remember my mom got me my first membership at his gym, and that's Hawk worked at his gym. That's where I first met Hawk at his gym. And I remember he'd sit there and he'd rock like this, his big old dip in his mouth, and Laurinaitis, how are you? And hey, Jess, what's up, bro? And his wife was a trainer at his gym and everything else. And I know his son was in Hollywood. He does some filmmaking of short take films. You know what I mean? But Jesse's a smart guy, man. He lives off the grid, New Mexico somewhere now. I saw him at last year's Comic Con. He looked the same. There was rumors that he was thinking about running for president, which I wouldn't put it past him. He did a great job at Minnesota governor.
Now, for Rick Rude, he was known for knocking people out with a slap. Did you ever see him in action in a real fight?
Yeah, Rick Rude and I bounced in the same bar called George's and Fridley in Fridley, Minnesota. Yeah. Yeah, Rude had a mitt like Danny Hodge and Steiner. They had those vice grip hands. It wasn't even like a hand; it was like a paw. And someone messed around, he just quick open hit because he was strong from the elbow down. You
Right.
know that arm wrestling strength. You know what I mean? Big old forearms and mitts on him. Yeah, Rude was a pretty good. Rude was probably one of the most underrated heels in the wrestling business, man. He was definitely one of the best ever. He
There-
single handedly made the Ultimate Warrior.
oh, yeah. There was a fan that wanted to know if MMA had existed around the time you got into wrestling. Do you think you would have gone into MMA instead?
I think if it would have been 5 years earlier, I think Hawk and I both would have gave it a try. Just to do the both cross. So we were in such good wind shape back then,
Yeah.
because we trained so hard, both anaerobically and aerobically, and just with weights that we could take a lot of punishment over the time. And we did a bunch of hour Broadways back then that nobody that was even heard of, in the wrestling business going an hour. But we did that. You never would have known how it would have turned out. I'm happy it went the path. It was a lot less painful going the path we went.
Yeah.
you know,
And you can wrestle more often than you can fight.
yeah. I mean, the fighting that there's not much you can do.
Now, for the Iron Man theme song, who came up with that idea?
I did, man. I saw that in the car, and we were riding in the car, and I saw that, and I
You
said,
just heard it.
yeah." I said, "We need to use that song."
Someone wanted me to ask you, you were there for the Ken Shamrock Kimbo Slice fight. A lot of people over the years have thought that may have been a work. What's your opinion being there?
I think it was a work. I think Shamrock had them dead to rights and just let them up. That's
Have
what I
you
think. I mean, I think it was a work
have
myself.
you have you seen Jack Swagger MMA fight? He's also in Bellator.
Yeah, I seen Jack. Yeah, I mean, Jack's more of a technical wrestler, I think, than a fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's going to win on his wrestling ability. He's not so much going to win on his fighting.
There's a fan that wanted me to ask you. The Pentagon a couple weeks ago came out saying that like UFOs actually exist. Since it's in the news, the fan wanted me to ask you what your opinion is. They're not saying that I guess aliens exist, but there's objects in the sky that the government says they don't know what they are.
I think we'd be ludicrous to think that in this whole big solar system that we're the only ones around. That's my opinion. We can't be the only ones around in the solar system that could fly a plane or jets or go to the moon or whatever. You know what I mean? There has to be other life forms out there.
And for Greg Gagne, how did you like working with him?
Greg was fine. Greg Gagne was fine, man. I mean, he was Vern's son. I don't even know if Greg would have been in the wrestling business if it wasn't for his dad owning the company.
Did you ever have any problems selling for him, even though he was smaller?
No, because he was over. He was over. You know what I mean?
How's your health holding up today?
Good, man. I feel great. I mean, I feel good. Just dieting down, trying down. I'm in the 260s now, which I've been trying to get down there for years. I finally, with this time off, doing aerobic stuff, have gotten my weight down, so that's good. Been trying to get down there. You
Do
know,
you do you remember whose idea Rocco was?
that was a stupid idea from WWF. I hated that gimmick.
But you don't remember which agent suggested that,
No,
or
I think it came between Vince and Paul. Ellering
okay.
and Ellering and Paul Vince did
I guess they wanted to do that for the
it.
toys, for the sales of toys or something.
Yeah, they want to try and show a softer side of Hawk and I. You know what I mean by having the dolls.
Yeah. And
You
I
know,
guess Hawk just got rid of it eventually.
so yeah, I made sure I never made it back from the trip.
Are you still going to church regularly and doing the Christian thing?
Well, I go as much as we can. You know, for the last 3 months, you can't go anywhere. But when that before that was going on, I was going.
Have you been following the whole thing with Ted DiBiase lately? It's been
Oh
all
boy, yeah, he's in a lot of world of hurt. That's just not a couple dollars. That's $5 million.
yeah.
I mean, that's a big. He and his sons, man, or state of Mississippi is going to come down and hard on them.
I guess at one point you used to do like these wrestling shows at churches, right, to promote God and so forth. Do you still
Yeah.
do that occasionally?
No, I've not done that for a few years, man. I used to do it with Teddy with the Heart of David Ministries, but I've not done that for a few years.
How did you like working with Ahmed Johnson?
He was all right. I mean, you know, it was a great look when we came down for the one Chicago street fight for one of the WrestleManias, you know.
And when Paul Ellering came to join you guys at WrestleMania 8, was that something that you guys requested to have him on the road with you, or was that WWE's idea?
I think it was WWE's idea to bring him back.
And Paul Roma has said that he hurt his shoulder in the match with you guys at WrestleMania 7. Do you have any recollection of that? He said that he felt bad. He thought he could have given you guys a better match, but I thought it was a good match.
Well, I don't remember that. I mean, I remember he had a bad neck for a while, you know, and a bad shoulder, you know. But I think Paul wasn't exactly the biggest guy. He had a great build on him, but he wasn't the biggest guy. And you know what I mean? He had a small frame on him, so I vaguely remember that. That's a long time ago. You're talking 30 years, you know.
Yeah, time goes by fast. You mentioned Brian Knobs earlier. How were the Nasty Boys to work with?
They were great because it was always a fight.
Right.
It was always a fight, always a battle, you know. So you always had a fight for every inch in the ring. You know, I think that was the greatest thing when we did, like you mentioned, Ahmed Johnson. You know, going against a Nation of Domination. Ron Simmons and a Nation of Domination with The Rock and Kama Singh and everybody had so much heat on them with D'Lo that all of a sudden we came down with Ahmed that was like, holy crap, you know, now here's the equalizer. You know what I mean? And that was money. I think they could have taken that around the whole world
Yeah.
because that was a hot thing, man. The Nation of Domination was hot.
How did you like working with The Rock? He's become one of the biggest stars ever now.
Oh, he was great. You knew he had something special even back then. I worked with Rock and Kane over in Kuwait City and Qatar, and Rock was just smooth. He was just a smooth worker in the ring. He had great athletic ability, you know.
Do you have a favorite movie of his?
Nah, man. I mean, I like some of the ones with Chris. What's his name? The short little guy, the comedian
Oh, Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Yeah, I get him mixed up with Chris Rock. Yeah, Kevin Hart. And any of the movies he's done, the one FBI one was great. I thought was funny as hell. Even Jumanji was funny. I gotta admit.
For the shoulder pads, did you come up with the idea to wear the spikes?
Yeah, man. I had a friend of mine that Dan Johnson that played tight end for the Miami Dolphins, and we went to college together. And right, we were starting Zubas at the time, and I asked the guy who was equipment manager for the Dolphins, "Hey, you got any extra shoulder pads I can play around with?" He sent me like 8 pair of pads, all different colors, and I just sat in my garage and drilled them out. Got a friend of mine in Honeywell to make spikes, and I screwed them on.
How long on average does it take to make a set of those?
Well, it all depends if you get them airbrush or not. I mean, you could drill them out in a couple hours and put the spikes on.
Do
That's
you
just
have a favorite pair?
uh my favorite pair were probably the original black ones.
Okay. Yeah,
I,
those were
I,
cool.
I like the black and the chrome spikes. That's the best look. Uh,
There was a, oh,
I didn't,
sorry.
I didn't mind the blue. Hawk hated the blue. I like the black and blue idea for promos. Hawk hated that. Um, I didn't like the white ones. The white ones were strictly for promotional purposes for Zubaz. And I wore the white with Hyde right because it wasn't my favorite pair, so I wasn't going to use any tied Hawk and I together with anybody else.
Right.
You know,
There's a fan that wanted to know why you never worked for World Class or Mid South.
well, we didn't work for World Class because they weren't going to let us go against the Von Erich boys because we would have beat them up.
Right.
Okay, and in Mid South we didn't wrestle with Bill Watts because Bill Watts was with Ole Anderson that gave us the idea for the Road Warriors in Atlanta.
Okay.
Bill Watts is a part of that with Ole.
Oh, I see.
He came up with Ole as a friend, say, because right where we got over, Ole would send us down to Mid South to do shots. We wrestled Magnum and Duggan down there, and we wrestled a bunch of other guys down there, Junkyard Dog and everything. So we wrestled a lot of Mid South guys.
So your experiences with Watts was good.
It was good. His son sucked as referee, Joel Watts, but other than that, Bill was okay. I like Bill Watts.
There's a fan that wanted to know if you have any memories of wrestling in Hamilton, Ontario.
Well, not any in particular, but I remember going up. We went to Hamilton not only for the NWA, but I think we went up there for Vern Gagne at the AWA a couple of times.
Yeah.
You know, and anytime we went to Canada, man, we always had good fan experience in Canada. To be honest with you, the probably the worst Canadian town for us to go to was Toronto. The reaction out of Toronto wasn't as good. Anywhere else, though, like Ottawa or Hamilton or St. John's, New Brunswick, or even Winnipeg or going out to Calgary, the reaction was always great. Toronto was a tough one. That's because I
That's
think it
true.
was oversaturated with WWF stuff.
Okay. You were in the ring when Sid broke his leg, I believe, back in WCW where the bone popped out. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I actually was standing back by the monitor, and
Okay.
I was dressed up in that straight jacket gimmick, and everybody thought I was Steiner.
Yeah.
No one knew it was me. They knew it was a taller version of Steiner. They just didn't know it was me, right? And so I was watching the monitor, and I watched Sid come off the second rope, and I saw his leg snap like a pretzel. I said, "Uh-oh, that ain't good," because I was supposed to come in, grab Sid, and powerbomb him, and I couldn't pick him up after that. His leg was dangling.
I
I get down there, and Scotty Steiner goes, "Joe, what do I do?" I said, "Kick him. Nothing you can do. His legs shaped like the letter L. Kick him." And all Sid was doing was back there was Effenheimer and my brother. God dang that Johnny. Screw that Johnny. Because Johnny talked him into doing that move.
okay. Yeah, he that was brutal.
Oh, bro, it was bad, man. It was bad. I've seen some pretty nasty accidents in the ring, man. I've been a part of a couple of nasty accidents.
What's the worst injury you've had in the ring?
When Warlord landed on my head and I had that orbital rim of my skull fracture, my eye popped out and popped back in too far. And
Oh,
I had a crack here, and broke my nose and blew out my orbit with one move.
crazy.
He tried to do a Samoan slam and it slipped and went back and he landed with all his weight on my head. Boom. I guess the mat. And I guess I just hit the board right where there was no give. It had a give in the weak spot and it gave right there. Still to this
And
day, I got rotation problems with my eye.
in those closing years of WCW, did your contract still exist when they went out of business? And also, where was Hawk during that time?
I don't know where Hawk was, man. I think Hawk was still finishing up with his Japanese stuff.
Okay,
And then when Vince actually was on TV, and I think he said, "Steiner, you can stay. Animal, you're good. Everybody else, you can go." And so,
interesting.
yeah, I know, right? But yeah, I really didn't have a contract with WCW at the time. I was just working with them. But I knew that WWF was going to be coming in. So
What do you think WCW's biggest downfall was?
money, guys getting hurt, not working for months on end. I mean, Sting took 6 months off one time, you know what I mean? And they were blowing money like crazy.
And what did you think about? I know you watched WrestleMania 36. They had the Undertaker cinematic match, and then the one with Cena and Bray Wyatt. Uh, I personally like the Undertaker, but I thought the other one was kind of far fetched. Wondering what you thought about them.
The Undertaker match?
The Undertaker and the Fiend matches.
Yeah, I like the Undertaker one. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It was like a script, you know. And hold on, I got somebody up at the door barking. Luke, my little miniature dog thinks he's a Rottweiler.
What breed is it?
Well, it's my wife's dog. It's a toy Pomeranian. I have that dog, and I got my female Roddy right next to him. She takes dumps bigger than he is. No, what were we talking about now?
The WrestleMania 36 cinematic matches.
I like the Taker thing. I thought it went a little long, but I thought it was good. The Cena thing I thought was funny. They're all different eras of Cena. I thought that was good. I mean, for what it was, with no fans and everything, I thought that was the smartest way to go about it that WWE did. I thought it was very professionally done. It was good. It wasn't hokey or looked crappy or anything, I thought it was all good. So I thought it was a good deal.
Bruce Pritchard, I guess, is in charge of SmackDown now. Did you have many experiences with him over the years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hawk and Bruce were good buddies. They would like to party together quite a bit. Yeah,
Did he ever?
I know we did a lot of brother love segments together.
Did he give you any produce any of your promos or anything when you were back there?
Nah, man, no one produced any of our promos. I mean, we all just did our own. They always trusted us. Said, okay, here's your topic. You guys go. You know what I mean?
They used a bunch of this behind the scenes footage from NWA in that documentary. Who shot that footage? Because back in those days, it's not common to have cameras
Jimmy
recording.
Garvin.
Okay, Jimmy Garvin.
Jimmy Garvin had a brand new camera and he was recording all the stuff. So
Wow.
he caught all that crap on. Yeah, it was the funniest thing, man. Hawk was being nuts, being Hawk.
A couple fans wanted me to ask you about Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer, if you had any experiences with him over the years.
Buzz was a little prick. Wasn't the nicest guy. We got really messed up. Just to go to show you can't be in this business and be all drugged out, because he was a big coke guy. And he was so messed up he had the book. I'll never forget, we were in Toledo, Ohio. And we had dropped the belts to he and Brett in Atlanta, and it was just like a fart in church. They weren't drawing any money as baby faces. We were heels, and they actually sucked. People couldn't stand them.
Okay.
And all he said is drop the belts back to the Road Warriors in Toledo. And Buzz said over message, he goes, you tell those freaking Road Warriors if they want these belts, they're going to have to shoot and take these belts off of us. And we sent a message back to Buzz, said, well, bro, you want us to shoot for those belts? We'll be happy to shoot for those belts. We're flipping a coin right now to see who's going to knock you out first. And we did. Hawk and I sat there in the locker room, flipped the coin. Hawk won. He goes, I'm going to kill the little bastard. So Buzz had taped razor blades through every one of his fingers and was just going to start slicing them when we got in the ring and start slicing us up. Well, Ole Anderson surprised everybody, was up in the upper balcony watching. Okay. Ole came in the locker room with us, and he was covered in blood on his dress shirt and everything else. I said, what happened to you? He goes, I just took a bunch of razor blades off that stupid little prick's fingers in the locker room. He goes, please, I'm asking you. He's the booker. Don't beat him up. I'm asking you guys, don't beat up the booker. It won't look good for business. You can't beat up the guy that's in charge. Don't beat him up. We said, Ole, okay for you. We're not going to. But when he steps out 1 minute, we're not taking any chances. We're going to protect ourselves because good enough. So we went in there, and Buzz tried belly and Hawk on the floor. Buzz couldn't even move Hawk. Buzz was supposed to be this amateur wrestling guru. Even as messed up as he was, Hawk just reached out and grabbed that bottom rope, and Hawk wasn't going anywhere. You know, and we ended up going over, but it was it was a situation that never needed to happen to begin with. But it was only because Buzz was all messed up that it happened.
And what are your thoughts on the Steiner brothers as a tag team? And I guess Rick Steiner's son is signed with Baltimore now.
Yeah, I had talked to Rick Steiner and I gave him a couple agents' numbers, and they ended up going a different route. And I told him, I said, man, just tell Bronson to keep working out hard. Someone will pick him up. And as soon as the draft was over, Baltimore picked him up. And I think he's going to make the team, man. The kid looks like a freaking thoroughbred. He
Yeah.
looks great. He's huge. He's probably one of the biggest running backs in Division II football. I'll tell you that. And he's got that, and he was going to go play D1. He had a chance to go play D1, but he wanted to play all 4 years. That was the only reason he went D2. And he broke every record that was in his college for yards and running and everything else. So, I mean, and touchdowns and everything else. So, not like he had a crappy career, you know. And of course, I like the Steiners, man. They're good friends of mine. Both Scotty and Rick, they're great guys, hard working, tough nosed guys. Unfortunately, they've had a lot of tears over the years, with lats and biceps, triceps, chest, and everything else. In that aspect, they're pretty brittle. But man, talk about hard nosed, hard working guys. Like to go to the gym every time. Man, they were good. They're over. I mean, they were over as a tag team.
I'm
Probably
guessing.
probably second or third best tag team ever in wrestling.
Yeah. I'm guessing they never tried to mess with you guys in the ring.
No, they tried to play around a couple times, but I looked right at them and I said, "Don't even think about it."
Yeah.
And there's certain guys in the wrestling business just don't mess around.
Yeah.
You can mess around with a lot of guys, but if some of the guys are going, "Hey, I'm telling you, you know, let's not mess around with this. Let's just have a good match," and then they know where you stand.
Did you have many issues with fans coming up to you in bars wanting to fight over the years, being a heel?
No, never had too many of that. I mean, I remember a few times we were beating up Tommy and Johnny Rich, and there was a couple fans that hit the ring on us, which was the biggest mistake you could have done because Hawk and I were on them like a couple of Wolverines, man, just, swinging away. We probably got in 10, 15 punches before they got drug out by the cops.
Wow.
They were already knocked out. And they were way past out, but I mean, that only happened a couple times. Fans didn't really, the thing with us is that we're two of us, they really didn't even know what to think of us. You know what I mean, Devin? We were so out there different. They didn't even know how to take us or think of us in a real sense.
Now, I've seen your posts on social media about the current state of wrestling. What would you do overall to give wrestling another boost? Because we've seen like NWA ended up being a lot of comedy and not as serious as the old NWA. AEW's a lot of comedy. You've mentioned WWE, some of the issues earlier in this interview, but where would you take wrestling?
I would go on a search around the world and I would find two big bad son of a guns and a single guy. And I would have them come in and I would have them destroy everybody, both babyface and heel. That's what they did with us. And the method works. Because that Hawk and I would say, I don't care if I dress in your locker room. I don't want to dress in your locker room. We'll get our own locker room, man. We don't care. We got ourselves and Paul Ellering. That's all we need. The three musketeers, right? One for all for one type attitude. I think they need to do something like that. I mean, because listen, Brock is over so strong. They don't believe anybody could beat Brock. That's why he's not on TV. That's why he took a break. They don't believe anybody could beat him. They need to develop somebody somewhere out there in this world. There's a freaking badass somewhere. You got to find this guy, bring him in there, and give him a chance. And whether he's a babyface or heel, it doesn't matter. You let the fans decide what they want him to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my opinion. What they need to do. You have to have top draw. Like, see, the business has gotten to the point where they think that everybody could be a superstar. That's just not fact. Chris Jericho, hands down, is the best heel in AEW, right? Best worker, hands down, is Kenny Omega. Best babyface, hands down, is Cody. There's going to be your top guys all the way, all the time. Then there's your other guys underneath that help build the card. But you need to have those main players for it to work. And right now, that's missing in the wrestling business. They don't have anybody as tag team in the WWE for sure. They don't have anybody singular-wise in WWE for sure right now. Not in the guys or girls. Not if Becky Lynch is going to go have a baby. I mean, now what do you do with your top girl? You got to try to make a top girl, right? So I think that's what you got to do, man. Listen, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And if it worked before, it'll work again. You got to go build. It's been enough time. It's been 35 years since Hawk and I stepped in the ring. There's time to build another gimmick. It doesn't have to be a Road Warrior gimmick. It doesn't have to be two guys with face paint. Could be just two big monster guys that look like Brian Cage that can move, though. You know what I mean? I mean, there's another guy. He looks as great as he does. If he could learn how to be vicious, are you kidding? Not act vicious, be vicious, like somebody raped his sister. Vicious. You know what I mean? Get that kind of mentality that you want to tear the person apart because he went near your family, you know? And that kind of vicious, man. That's what this business needs. It got too much into the tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. You do your spot, I'll do my spot. You get your shine, I'll get my shine. That's not reality. Think about it this way. You go in a bar fight, you're not going to say to the guy, hold on, let me get my punch in first and you hit me second. You certainly aren't going to look at him and go, okay, go. But that's what it's gone. That's what it's gone to. And if you got a big angle you're trying to shoot with Mike Tyson, you don't take a family photo with him afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Even though it's entertainment, you don't. You keep the fan wondering. My opinion. That's all it is, my opinion, you know, for what it's worth.
So for heels out there watching, I guess your advice would be to be more vicious.
I would be more vicious. See, here's what's missing. I was taught by Jake Roberts and some of the best heels in the business. Once you get your opportunity, you got to step it up a gear. There's no gear change in the match. The heel tries to be a heel the same way all the way through, except MJF does it a little bit, does it pretty good. When he gets his chance to be a heel and be a dirtbag and really get his heat, he turns it on pretty good. He's pretty funny, pretty humorous to watch, right?
Yeah.
That he's about the only heel that turns it up that gets it. You know, and he's going to be a great heel once he learns all the way. It's guys like him. That's what you need to have. You need to have those guys that could be like a Tully Blanchard type heel. You're the talk big and you're chicken shit, and then all of a sudden, bam, time for you to get your heat. Boom, 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 boom. You don't let the guy breathe. And then you gloat over it, right? That's you get your heat.
Now, Sunny managed you for a brief period in '97. She's just got out of jail about a month or two ago. Any thoughts on all of her problems? I think she's had 6 DWIs now.
Man, I have not talked to her in such a hard time, man. I feel bad that anybody goes through the situation in life that she's gone through. I don't know what she's doing now. I think she's jumped back into the same thing she was doing before. I'm not too sure. I don't go on social media much. I will once in a while post on Facebook every now and then or promote the t-shirts or face mask, you know what I mean? But I don't really like to get involved. Maybe once or twice I might post something politically if I feel it's strong enough about a situation. Like this deal going on in Minneapolis right now. What the cops did is freaking horrendous and embarrassing and appalling. But on the same time, they're tearing down stuff in their own community. Like they just pillaged that Target. Now that Target's got to be closed. What about all their neighbors that work at that Target to pay bills for their family? Now those people don't have jobs. But they don't think about that stuff when they do stuff like this, right? Because they think, well, we're going to cause a riot and pillage and steal and ruin things. We'll show you then. Well, and you didn't show anybody. You just showed your own neighborhood. Now they're going to call in the National Guard. Now you're going to get shot with rubber bullets.
Right.
What did you achieve? Let the court system do its job, man. Let them prosecute and charge these cops and take care of it. I gave my opinion on that, what I thought about that stuff. But other than that, man, I try to stay out of it.
And you follow UFC. What is your opinion on the upcoming Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic heavyweight fight that's going to happen before the end of the year?
And I think Daniel Cormier, he's kind of he's a sleeper in a way. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at him, you're thinking, oh, how's this guy going to last? The guy's got wind and can go. He's a
Yeah.
lot tougher than he comes off. He's actually very baby face looking. And he goes out there and he ends up being one of the meanest guys in there. You know what I mean? And I just saw today that McGregor is wanting to accept the fight.
Yeah.
You know, and is going to fight again. He's going to fight Silva, right?
I think it's going to be on this fight island, which is, I guess, going to be in Abu Dhabi,
Huh?
from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, listen, that'll mean there'll be two good fights on the card anyway. You know.
Another one they're looking at possibly doing is having John Jones go up to heavyweight and fighting this Francis Ngannou guy, this big dark guy. I don't know if you've seen him.
I think I've seen him one time, but John Jones is good, man. He can punch. I mean, isn't he southpaw?
I believe so.
Yeah, yeah, he's sneaky, man. He slips that punch in, and he's tall enough, and he's big enough to put the weight on his frame too. You know.
Any fighting advice for the fans out there? I know you're more of a street fighter, but you could be attacked at any time in these times, as we've seen in Minnesota lately.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you what, if someone attacks you, go for the eyes, bro. You can't hit what you can't see. Take that. I always tell somebody, yeah, you may get a shot in. I said, but I'm taking an eyeball with me. So, and that might be my dessert for this fight because I will take something. I will take some kind of appendage off your body before it's over. you know, but the best kind of the best kind of fight, Devin, is don't get in one.
Yeah, avoid him unless you're
Don't
getting paid.
Yeah, unless someone's paying you to fight, man, don't put yourself in that situation to get it to have the fight, you know. But yeah, man, listen. I think one good thing about the wrestling business, man. I think we're at a time in the wrestling business. Look, it's surviving this pandemic that the whole country has gone through, and I think it's going to grow to be bigger and better than it was before. Once it gets rocking and rolling again, I think that both companies are in a prime time in the wrestling business to reevaluate what they've been doing and say, okay, like a WWE saying NXT, we've been losing the wars. Why are we losing the ratings war? And AEW needs to think, well, we've been ahead. What can we do to stay ahead? You want to fall forward. You don't want to fall back, right? You want to
Yeah.
spring it forward, right? So that's what I would concentrate on. I would get rid of all the ha-ha stuff. I would get rid of all the non-believable stuff. I'd get away. No offense, he may be funny to people, that Orange Cassidy, someone got in the ring with me, put their hands in their pockets, I'm killing them. I'm killing them. I'm not going to do it. I wouldn't do it. No matter how over they are, I'm going to freaking murder you. If you're going to insult me that much and wrestle me with your hands in your pockets, bro, you better have one tough chin because I'm coming.
Well, I know he is over to those fans, but I was at that Philadelphia autograph session that you were at back in November, and he was just behind you. And I didn't see any fan lined up to see him the whole day that I was there. I mean, I'm not denying there's AEW fans that like him, but you had a continuous line, but his table was kind of empty.
Yeah, well, that's just, I mean, that's the thing. When you're over with all the wrestling fans, not just a particular association. Like you're not over with only AWA or AEW or NWA or WWE. When you're over with all of them, it means you've done your job, because these people, the wrestling fan works hard, Devin. They work hard to budget the money to be able to go to matches, to be able to afford pay-per-views, and they deserve to get 1,000% out of the wrestlers each and every night. And the fans know who's doing that. They know ha ha from rah rah to what's over and what's not over. And right now, they're just biding their time because there's nothing else to watch.
Now, when I started off wrestling, I was on two shows with you for Jacques Rougeau. You don't remember me because I was like a teenager in those days. But on the second show, something happened with Hawk and one of Jacques' Harleys. I was wondering if you could tell that
Oh,
story.
were you there?
I was there, but I was just,
Uh,
it was my first or second year of wrestling.
bro, so Jacques got us. When we talked to Jacques, he says, I got you a couple Harleys to ride to the ring. We get there and there's one Harley with a sidecar. I looked at Jacques, and I go, Jacques, am I going to ride bitch or what? I mean, because Hawk goes, I'll drive the bike, animal. And now I'm sitting on the bike and I'm looking at the doorway to go on the ice. And I'm thinking to myself, there ain't no way this bike's fitting through that doorway. And the guy says, oh, yeah, it'll fit. We measured it. It's going to fit. I said, bro, I'm telling you, it ain't going to fit. I measured it too. It's not big enough, that doorway. So Hawkins on it, didn't even listen. Boom, the bike stuck right in the middle of the boards. Broke the lights off, and it was a collector's edition bike.
Yeah.
Broke the lights off of it and everything. Jacques was pissed. There was like $3,000 of the lights broken on the bike. He didn't want to pay us. I said, hey, bro, it ain't my fault that bike's here. I said, first of all, I wasn't the one driving it. I said, so one thing, you're paying me. Because I did my match and I came here to work and I didn't screw up nothing. You want to not pay Hawk? You go talk to Hawk. And I knew that wouldn't go very well. So yeah, that's the way that happened. And of course, Hawk was a little lit when he drove it through into the boards and got it stuck, and brother, it just wasn't a good situation.
And I know you moved to St. Louis for your son. Are you going to stay there now that he's retired from football?
Man, I don't know. He's in Ohio. My other son, Joe's in Ohio with my other three grandkids. And we may go closer that way. My wife's from Texas. We may go that way. I got my daughter and my grandson, Jacob, here. And, her fiance, Jaden, Jaden Roller's a wrestler himself. And wrestles for a lot for Harley Race and stuff in their company. So I don't know, man. I don't know. We may stay here for a little bit. I don't think I'm going to stay here past another year, to be honest with you.
Right.
My youngest daughter is probably getting ready to go out on her own here pretty soon, and this house is just too big for my wife and I. I don't need the room like this. You know,
Do you have any stories about Harley Race since you bring him up? He just passed away last year, of course.
man. Uh, I'll never forget we were working for Giant Baba for All Japan. Harley was champion, and Hawk and Harley started drinking, and they both had their wedding rings on. And here they are in a bar in this place called the Lexington Queen, and they're on a stage, and they decided to do the test of strength for Rio, the Roman knuckle lock. And they grab each other's hands like this, and they start squeezing. Bro, they must have did it for an hour. And then they both said, time out, time out. And they had a couple more beers, and they went back at it again for about another half an hour. They went like this, and their rings, they had regular gold rings. The rings were bent flat on their fingers. I don't know how they could get circulation in their fingers. They bent both their rings. They did it so long. That was my first experience doing anything with Harley.
Wow.
Then shortly after that, we wrestled Harley and Stan Hansen in Cleveland, Ohio. In a bull rope match, was a brutal fight too.
How was Stan Hansen to be in the ring with?
Oh, Stan let you know he was in the ring. I mean, Stan was about 320 pounds at the time. He was a big old country boy, man. When he hit you, first of all, he was blind as a bat. So when
Yeah.
he hit you with that lariat, man, that lariat hurt. I mean, he really rocked you.
Did you ever wrestle Brody and Hansen as a tag team?
No, but I remember the first time we were wrestling Stan, we were in the Omni, and Hawk and I had just hit the ring on Dusty Rhodes and left Dusty laying in a pile of blood in the ring. And Ole Anderson told us, hey, listen, I'm going to send Hansen down to the ring. No matter what he does, you two guys don't let him get to Dusty. Well, at the same time, we didn't know this till afterwards. He told Hansen, he said, hey, I want you to hit the ring, bump around the Road Warriors, and go save Dusty. So he told Stan the exact opposite he told us. So Stan goes running down, and I caught him out of the corner of my eye as he was getting ready to climb in the ring. And I hit the ropes, and I used to be able to hit the ropes pretty hard. I
Yeah.
hit him as fast as I can, and I hit Stan. I seriously sent him into like the third or fourth row on top of the
Wow.
people. That pissed Stan off so much. All of a sudden, here he comes in with two chairs. Bam, 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 bam. Then he threw Hawk in and gave him a lariat and knocked Hawk completely out. Hit him right in the forehead. Boom. Hawk went out. I grabbed Hawk by the boots, pulled him out of the ring, woke him up, and walked him back to the locker room. Got over like a son of a gun, but that was the first rib to us. They told us to do one thing, told Stan to do the opposite, and we both fell for it like suckers. That was my first encounter with Stan Hansen.
What about the Funks? They were so over in Japan, but they may have been a bit before your time.
Yeah, we wrestled Terry and Dory Funk in Kurikan Hall. It was like the passing of the torch. It was our first
Okay.
tour, and they knew we were coming over, and we did a count out, but we kind of beat them up all over the ring, all over the arena.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Do you still go over to Japan from time to time? You're such a legend over there.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to get a deal to take. I'm going to take the War Kings over to go to New Japan and do some stuff, but that's not working out. I think Crimson's doing some stuff with the NWA. But I was going over there for Jimmy Suzuki. I did 3 tours for Jimmy Suzuki and his company. You never know, man. I might go back over there. I hear they're trying to do a huge Comic-Con over there. I saw the pictures. There was like 250,000 people a day go to the one Comic-Con in Tokyo.
I've seen they've brought Nikita Koloff into this new NWA for a few appearances. Have they reached out to you at all?
I've done a couple things with them before at the very beginning. No, they haven't. But and I won't go in there for nothing. And that's what they want to pay you. They want to pay you nothing. So
Okay.
I mean, we could give that. I mean, I give that a lot of credit. See, I kind of got ticked off a little bit with the NWA because when they did the NWA and they were doing a Crockett Cup, I
Yeah.
helped push the return of the Crockett Cup, and they told me I was going to hand out the trophy to the winner. And because it was in Charlotte, they didn't want to pay my trans or pay me to do it, so they had Nikita hand out the trophy to the winner because he lives in Charlotte.
Right.
They got cheap on me right away, and I don't respect that, man. I don't respect anybody that gets that cheap thing. And Dave Lagana gets that cheap. He gets cheap in that way, and I wasn't going to do that. And I
I
was
don't
already.
know how they have any money anyways, because like my YouTube channel is about 6 or 7 times more popular than theirs. But you look at all the money they're throwing at their production values, they must be losing a fortune.
Oh, they got to be losing a fortune. Listen, unless they're getting a lot of sponsor money, but they cannot be because the ratings aren't that good. Their numbers aren't that great,
No.
and they need some help. I would love to get in there and help with Jim Cornette and help revamp that whole show, to be honest with you. And I think we can make it great, but they need to get rid of a lot of talent. They got a lot of dead weight in that company. They don't need guys that are never going to draw you flies, and they're not going to draw you flies in a crap house. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
just not. They're not going to do it. And you need to be realistic about who's going to draw you money and who's not, and who's worth the TV time. You
Yeah.
know?
And I think the guy that they have as champion now, I mean, they've given him enough of a chance. He's not really causing that much of a buzz. He's not on the road defending the title. Maybe they should get someone a little different. I don't.
Who's their champ? Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Nick Aldis, man. I think he's a great guy. But to be honest with you, I mean, who's he beating?
Yeah. Nobody of any
I
substance.
mean, the last guy he won that belt off of was Cody, and that Cody's not mentioned because he's with the other company.
Right.
So who did you beat? I mean, if you went around like the NWA World Champ and would go and wrestle the top guy, even in all the indie promotions, that would be better than not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just because you wrestle the guys in the NWA doesn't mean you wrestle the top guys. I would work out a deal like the Rock and Roll Express said. Go in there and do a double DQ with Cody. At least you
Yeah.
put yourself on that level, or do a DQ with Moxley. Put yourself on that level. But you're not even putting yourself on that level.
Or let him go around to the indie shows, as you said, fight on the more popular indie events and get it over. But
Yeah.
it's not happening. So finally, do you want to let us know where people could follow you on social media?
Yeah, man. They can do me on my Twitter at RW Animal. My Instagram, it's Joe Laurinaitis. Well, I think my Instagram's the same thing. My Facebook's Joseph Laurinaitis, my real name. If you want to book me on any appearances, just contact me there, or go on social media, go on Messenger, and contact me. I'll answer you back immediately. But if you want to do an appearance with me, you get a hold of me quick because my calendar's filling back up again. I do a lot of promotional stuff with Cameo. Go to cameo.com and want to wish someone a happy birthday or a happy anniversary or something. I do that all the time. And there's another one too called Celebrity VM, Celebrity Voicemail. I do it there too. So there's a lot of ways to get a hold of me, man, for social media.
And you have your own podcast as well.
Yeah, my What a Rush podcast, man. I do it every week, and as a matter of fact, I'm getting to record one tomorrow. So it's on Apple iTunes, that so through Apple. So it's getting pretty good ratings. So
Well, that's great. And then to finish this off, could we get a What a Rush from you?
sure, I'll see if I can get one up there, man. In memory of my partner Hawk. Oh, what a rush!
Good.